Good afternoon and welcome to NHADEC's Lunchtime Connections. Today is Wednesday, April 18th, 2018, and today we'll be hearing from Mercury Systems, ArgenTech Solutions, and the McAuliffe-Shepard Discovery Center. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce NHADEC members to one another and to give each one the opportunity to tell us about their business and their capabilities. My name is Stephanie McLaughlin, and I will be your host today. I am the Principal of Savoir-Faire Marketing Communications. I am a NHADEC member and as well a member of the NHADEC's Marketing Committee. The format of today's webinar is as follows. We have three companies presenting. Each presenter will have approximately 8 minutes to talk about their company. And at the end of each presentation, there'll be a short period of Q&A. You're welcome to either ask a question of the presenter directly, or you may type your question into the chat pane and I can pose the question to them. I will be monitoring time and keeping us on track today, and if we're running short, I may close Q&A, at which point folks still with questions left are certainly welcome to connect with the presenter directly. You can raise your hand in the webinar controls or use the chat pane if you have any questions for me during the webinar. And with that, I think we're going to get started. Today, I would like to welcome Greg Donahue, the Marketing Program Director for Mercury Systems. Greg, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Stephanie. If you can move to the next slide, please. So Mercury Systems, basically, we're an electronics company, and we primarily supply the defense industry. Our headquarters is in Andover, Mass. We have a RF manufacturing facility. It's a pretty brand new state-of-the-art facility in Hudson, New Hampshire. We also have 8 other locations across the U.S. and 4 overseas, primarily in Europe. Kind of the unique thing about Mercury is we do operate as a commercial entity, so we, like other high-tech electronics companies, we invest a lot of our revenue annually in R&D, which is a little different for the defense industry. Innovation is at the core of what we do, and our tagline is actually innovation that matters, and that's kind of what really drives us with our customers. Next slide, please. So I hate to call this a product slide. It's more like a product/capability slide, because what we supply is we manufacture from both both RF and microwave and in the digital world, and we manufacture everything from components. So the lower arc of products would be some RF microwave types of products that we would make. We manufacture components such as mixers and filters, things like that, and we integrate those into assemblies such as that integrated microwave assembly you can see on the slide. The small at the lower left, you see a seeker that basically is a RF transceiver that would go in a missile. All the way to the right, there's an EW subsystem, so that's a complete subsystem with a variety of RF and microwave components in it. We would sell that to primarily to primes. The upper arc of products, again, this is more along the digital line, but very similar. We manufacture components such as memory chips and secure solid-state drives that have encryption built in. We'll use those components to build out single-board computers or multi-chip modules like you see on the left. Again, we then take those products and integrate them into chassis. So the next two that you see is a safety certifiable. This would go in an avionics type application. The one next to that is a sensor processing subsystem. Something like that would go in, say, the Patriot radar system, so it would do the radar processing. We would sell that to somebody like Raytheon. And then the other two products, this is a newer market that we're doing much more in the command and control market. And these are basically server products, so just like an HP or a Dell, but we build them from the ground up with security built in, and then we ruggedize them. And applications for products like this would be like a wide-body airplane that's doing surveillance, or a distributed ground station for the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, where they need a lot of processing power, but you're going to be in tough environments where a traditional server just will not survive. So we cover quite a bit of ground with what we do, and again, primarily selling to primes and primarily selling the chassis, the integrated subsystem. We typically do not do software, so we will sell those chassis full of computer boards, networking boards, RF and microwave components, and the prime would then put the software on top, the application layer. Next slide, please. So this slide talks a little bit about, down the left, you can see some of the markets that we play in. Radar and EW are our biggest. We're in a lot of air platforms and a lot of Navy platforms, starting to do a lot more with the Army and ground platforms. C2 and precision-guided missiles in particular are two growth markets that we've been experiencing over the last few years. And the pictures give you an idea of some of the programs we're on. Some of these we have been on for several years, quite a long time. And at the bottom you can see, that's, again, we sell primarily, those are major customers that we sell to. And again, a lot of them are primes. Next slide, please. So this is my last slide, and I'm not going to go through each of these bullets because you can read them yourself, but I am going to pull out a couple of kind of what I think are the key ones. So the speed of the best commercial technology, what we really mean by that is we work with the latest electronics and technologies coming out of the commercial world. So for example, the latest Intel chip. We take that and we put it into package it in such a way that it can operate in the military environment, which can be extremely challenging for electronics. Electronics are not designed typically to be able to sit in, say, an unmanned vehicle that's going to sit in the desert at 150 degrees, then take off and be at 60,000 feet. The vibration, the temperature changes, all the things that happen when that occurs are not good for electronics. So we need to do a lot of mechanical engineering in particular to get these things to survive and operate the way they're supposed to. But we see ourselves as that conduit that takes the best commercial technology and enables the military to be able to use that. Another key point here is there's security built in. So we design from the start with security in mind, and so lots of other electronics, they'll build something and then try to bolt something on afterwards. That's not nearly as robust. We try to build with security in mind from the beginning. For our customers, what this really, one of the big things is we do a lot of open system architectures. That's the OSA you see there. And what that really means is that we drive modularity, which enables them to do the tech refreshes and swap out. So for example, they can swap out an older Intel processing card with a new one. This enables them to do this modular and add capabilities to a platform over time instead of having to take a whole system in like an EW system and replacing it with a new one. And with that, I think there is one last slide. So with that, I think I'd like to open it up for Q&A, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be willing to take them at this point.
Thanks, Greg. You were mentioning some of the programs you're in, and those are some pretty major programs. Is Mercury qualified? Is it a small business or?
So that's a great question. So we used to be a small business. In February of this year, we just outgrew it. Over the last 5 years, we've been growing at about 10% a year organically, and then about 10% through acquisitions, which is how we got into some of these other markets. That compounded growth has now finally pushed us over that. So for people that now sell to Mercury, you actually have a little bit more of a leeway with us because we now have to follow having small businesses supply us. We do still qualify as a non-traditional defense contractor, which still gets us an awful lot of leeway with primes because they need to be, that whole commercial connection really helps them when they're trying to sell to the DoD.
Wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thanks. Double-edged sword.
Right, absolutely, right. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce ArgenTech Solutions. And today we have Dave Looney with us, who will be presenting on behalf of Rita Hunt.
Good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are.
Good morning.
So I'm stepping in for Rita. Rita had something else. She was pulled away, a family deal. So I apologize if I can't answer some question that she's embedded in here for me. But ArgenTech Solutions, I can go to the next slide. We are a UAS services provider, and we have overseas and domestic interests. Go ahead, slide. So we got started in the UAS services business there in March 2009 in full force, and our main focus is providing to Boeing in situ, providing people for their overseas commitments in the Scan Eagle program. And they have over in different port operating bases all across the Southwest Asia. They have places where they're using the Scan Eagle to do overwatch over these different FOBs. And if you're not unfamiliar with Scan Eagle, it's a catapult launched and skyhook recovered, about a 55-pound unit that has a multi-sensor array, both EO and IR. And it loiters or is directed by the operator and to go surveil and provide tactical situational awareness in the field to whomever requires it that's supporting the base, whether they're watching for IED plants or they're, following a convoy, et cetera, something like that. So our operators go over there 4 to 6 months, then return back to the States for a period of time and then go back over. So we've got about 30 or 40 of those seats usually with Boeing in situ, and we've been doing that since March 2009. That's where we've accumulated the 2,000 hours of PIC, or pilot and command time. The other things we list there, the GIS support for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Forest Service in particular. The GIS specialists would travel out to wildfires and provide mapping solutions and the expertise in order to produce maps on site and help the Forest Service plan and tactically operate during the wildfire program. We were hired last year for Lockheed Martin to help set up they had a commercial UAV services branch that they wanted to start up. We were asked to set up their entire program from their general operations manual on down. So we spent a bunch of time working with Lockheed Martin on that, and still have an association there to provide services for their in support mainly of their Stalker program, which that platform is in mainly DoD vendors that buy that system, and then we can go help and train those troops in the operation. We've also done some range manager stuff, which is UAS development for beyond visual line of sight, and the testing, and that's ongoing for the FAA to help figure out their regulations. In commercial operations, we're really just opening up that side. It's restricted somewhat by the BV laws, the beyond visual line of sight restrictions. The photogrammetry, you're providing detailed high-density 3D point clouds with either aerial photography, which we can do much cheaper than with a normal manned platform. LiDAR, which is even more detailed and incredibly accurate for survey-type stuff. And then thermal imagery using a FLIR systems that can take pictures and tell you whether or not there's hot spots on a solar panel or on a roof or on an electrical grid. And then multispectral agricultural mapping. Slide. There's examples of what we're talking about there. You see the upper right is the thermal, the lower, larger picture there with the commercial development, the downtown development. That's a LiDAR image, and that's a 3D point cloud that you pick up, turn around. Multispectral analysis is really good for agriculture. You can tell where you need to lay down pesticides or irrigate, etc. Slide. The flight department, for us, we've concentrated on bringing in some, mainly military but also civilian manned aircraft flyers to enhance the safety and program development. And that's actually me on the left. Down, I'm in Colombia. We have an association with an affiliate company training a couple of Colombian military UAS pilots that working for a company down there called Mura, which we set up. We also have another affiliate company in South Africa, and we've had work with bids out with OSCE, Operation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, to support potentially work surveilling in Ukraine. And let's see, I think that was it over there. We do, if people are starting out in the UAS business, we can help them set up their programs and for both regulatory compliance and information effectiveness. We've got a very robust experience in the import-export area, which is, obviously dealing with systems that you're buying, whether buying a Seeker UAS or a Reach or something from South Africa, and you've got to import that. Then there's ITAR stuff that happens with the aircraft itself, and also, of course, the sensors may be ITAR controlled and dealing with whatever information that's going in and out. So we've had quite a bit of experience with that. Our CEO and one of our other board members are both Navy sub guys, and they're very good at being detailed oriented when it comes to those types of regulations. Next slide. We've just set up a place in Concord, where I'm at right now, Concord, New Hampshire, and we're developing the ability to bring UAS companies in here and help them train their pilots and set up their programs. There's an example of some of the systems that we have currently. The Vapor is a very robust system that can hold a variety of sensors, and that's our main LiDAR. And then the other smaller systems are great for training. So that's about it. I can take whatever questions you have. There's not me. That's Rita, obviously.
Right. So if a company's looking for help or interested in working with ArgenTech, is it Rita that they're looking to connect with?
Yeah, Rita's probably your best point of contact. She comes to us from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. She's very well connected in this area, and she's the lead on setting up our Concord training facility. So if they're looking to set up UAS operations or answer questions on how they need to do that, particularly in New Hampshire, she's going to be the best resource you can possibly imagine.
Fantastic. One other question for you. It really sounds like there's a broad offering from the company. Is there a specific area that you would consider to be ArgenTech's specialty?
The thing I think that sets us apart compared to other small business UAS companies is the import-export stuff. We've run in over and over again into other small businesses that are either not complying because of ignorance, or they're just not good. Mainly it's ignorance, or they just don't care and they just want to go get the business done. But of course that bites them later on down the road. So it's a very methodical approach. Like as I mentioned, when you're dealing with former Navy subsurface guys, you can expect to follow things on a checklist, and that's the way you have to do it. You have to plan for that type of those are business requirements that you have to meet. So that's where we've noticed successfully being able to operate in that environment, and also with the enhanced safety that comes from being detailed in those areas.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're pleased to have you a part of the presentation.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Jean Jurulskis of the McAuliffe-Shepard Discovery Center. The center's executive director is with us today. Hello, Jean.
Hello, everyone. Okay, we're going to.
Are you ready to?
Yep.
You ready to get going? Sorry. Okay, here we go.
Okay. I'm not seeing the next slide. Are you?
Okay, there we go. I just need you to tell me to ask for the slide.
Oh, okay. Well, let me start with our mission. And it's pretty formal language. A lot of us worked on it. Our mission is to inspire every generation to reach for the stars through entertaining, artful, and engaging activities that explore astronomy, aviation, earth, and space science. And our vision is to be a sustainable memorial that will engage minds, make learning fun, and inspire people of all ages to pursue lifelong learning about our universe. And more informally, we want to show everybody how much fun engaging in science, technology, engineering, and math truly are. A lot of people are intimidated by science, terrified of math. They think engineering is just a magical thing and bridges just appear. Airplanes just fly. So our job is to both show people how things work and how they can be involved in them so that young people have all the possibilities in the universe before them when they're deciding what to be when they grow up. And as you get older and older, you just keep learning more and more and more about our universe. Okay, next. So we are dedicated to two of New Hampshire's finest space pioneers. We have Alan Shepard, who was born in East Derry, New Hampshire, went to Pinkerton High School and graduated from there, went on to the Naval Academy, became a Navy test pilot, America's very first astronaut, and then commander of Apollo 14. He's one of only 12 human beings who've set foot on the moon. And then Krista McAuliffe, who was a Concord High School teacher, a social studies teacher, and she was chosen over 11,000 other applicants to become NASA's first teacher in space. And the McAuliffe-Shepard Discovery Center came about first as a dedication to Krista McAuliffe. Back in 1990, the people of New Hampshire created a planetarium to honor Krista. And then when Alan Shepard passed away in 1998, we spoke with Krista's family and Alan Shepard's family and decided to also honor Alan Shepard at this facility. And when the original facility was designed, it was just a 9,400 square foot standalone planetarium, which didn't really serve the needs of the public that had come to use it. So we ended up expanding, and we now have a over 45,000 square foot science museum and planetarium that takes our inspiration from both of these two wonderful people. Next slide. So our focus is all on STEM. We are all about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We started many years ago as a state agency, and after 22 years, we separated from the state, created our own independent business. We had our nonprofit launch on New Year's Day in 2013. We're a 501c3 organization, so if anyone's in the mood to give a gift, your donation is tax deductible. And since we launched as a nonprofit, we've served over 250,000 people, both visitors and participants in our educational outreach programs. And that includes over 58,000 pre-kindergarten through 12th grade students who come here on school field trips, and another 20,000 additional students that we reach by bringing our portable planetarium and our telescopes to schools, libraries, boys and girls clubs, community venues all over New England. We are actively engaged in getting kids, families, and lifelong learners to love STEM. And we do this through a variety of different ways. We have interactive STEM exhibits, both permanent ones that stay here and ones that we bring in from all over North America. We have planetarium shows that we bring in from all over the world. We do summer STEM day camps, in rocketry, coding, 3D design and printing, aeronautical design, space exploration. We have a first Friday night lecture and workshop series, which includes night sky observing, pending clear skies. And we have an annual aerospace festival, which I really want to highlight today because it's coming right up. It's on May 5th, Saturday. That is the first Saturday in May, and it also just happens to be the 57th anniversary of Alan Shepard's first space flight. We also have an after-school program that we collaborate with the Boys and Girls Club on, and we have homeschool workshops every month, and we just do everything we can think of to get people excited about STEM. We're Northern New England's own Air and Space Museum. We're centrally located right off I-93 in our 45,000 square foot facility, which includes about 20,000 square feet of exhibit space. We also have some outdoor interactive exhibits, including a 92-foot tall Mercury redstone rocket out front. And our planetarium theater is all digital with a 40-foot dome screen and 103 seats. We have an observatory and a cafe. And the people who come to us are about 74% from all over New Hampshire and about 96% from all over New England. And then we get people from all over the world, but 99% of our visitors and program participants are from the U.S. We draw predominantly mixed generation family groups, parents with kids, grandparents with grandchildren. We have about 25% of our visitors are kids on school field trips. We also have individuals and senior groups, veterans groups, tour groups, educators. So we serve pretty much everybody, the business community as well. We're open year-round with expanded hours in the summer and during school vacation weeks. And we're pretty much a 24/7 operation because we have our public hours, our school hours, our evening programs, and overnight programs with scouts. And so one of the things we would like to really focus on is our NHADEC members, where we're a great venue for you to bring family and friends, to host your prospective and current customers, to learn about the latest in space exploration. We do facility rentals of our full facility or just rooms, which is great professionally and personally. And this is a wonderful place to engage and inspire tomorrow's scientists and engineers, and put your name on the place if you're so inclined and would like to make a donation. So upcoming STEM adventures, just quickly, we're open 7 days a week now through the end of April. It's the last chance to see our exhibit True or False. We have Aerospace Fest coming up May 5. A new exhibit all about math that's going to be really fun, May 25 through September 2. And then we've got our Superstellar Fridays coming up the first Friday of every month. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's great, Jean. Thank you so much. Because we are, doing this in the context of the New Hampshire Aerospace and Defense Export Consortium today, I'm curious to know how what you guys do over at the Discovery Center impacts, the pipeline for our NHADEC members' employee pools in the future.
Well, what we think is really important is to catch kids while they're young. As kids get older, a lot of girls turn away from engineering and science. There are a lot of people who think they can't do things that they really can, but they get intimidated or there are social pressures. So if we start them really young and get them excited about trying all of these different things in all kinds of different ways, either through a quick visit or an extended workshop or a very extended after-school program that can go on through the whole school year, we can start getting kids thinking about becoming the engineers that our NHADEC members need, or the people who are going to be the scientists that are really part of NHADEC. A lot of places are very interested in supporting college-level students, but if you don't get them when they're young in elementary and middle school, they are not going to continue in the sciences and other STEM fields in high school and on to college. So if we can create a lifelong love right here, right now, then that's going to do us really good as a state and as a nation as the kids get older.
Great. Thank you, Jean. Hey, one
Sure.
last question for you. I've been to the Discovery Center many times, and it's just such a cool spot. What's your favorite thing about the Discovery Center?
My favorite thing is walking out on the floor, looking to see if kids look confused about how anything works, and go over and talk to them about it, and just see that spark light up in their eyes. That's when I was a kid, my uncle had hung a map of the solar system up on the wall, and that's where my interest really started. And I just want to create that same spark. And when I can go out on the floor and talk to kids about how things work, why airplanes stay up in the sky, how we know what's on the surface of Pluto, that's just really heartwarming for me.
What a great opportunity. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jean. I appreciate you being here with us.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of our Lunchtime Connections today. Thank you so much to all of our presenters, as well as the audience, attendees, and everybody watching this at a later date. I sincerely appreciate your time and attention. If you are watching this and would like to participate in an upcoming episode, please drop me an email at stephanie@savoiefair-us.com. And certainly if you'd like to refer back to this presentation or share it with someone you think would be interested, the video of today's episode is going to be posted onto YouTube and onto the NHADEC blog. So we hope that you will help us spread the news of these three NHADEC members. Thanks so much, everyone. I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Good